Previously. For the next mod, I thought I would do this top hat mod. So next, I want to install the Wonka-vator. Holy smokes, that is loud though. And I've been communicating with Rob at LurMods about the Wonka-vator, and immediately he confirmed that there's something wrong with my Wonka-vator, probably the motor, and he offered to replace that motor. So hopefully that will take care of it, swapping out that motor. But in other news, my LED strip showed up. What I want to do now is pull that the old LED strip from the Gobstopper ramp sign and replace it with part of this strip. I'm just going to solder on a new one. And hopefully that takes care of that issue and we can button that project up. I'm looking forward to seeing how that sign looks. The next mod I want to do is the Translite mod. And so picking up right where I left off, I think I'm going to start with doing the smokestack mod for the Wonka Tower. All right, so first step is to pull the playfield out a little bit so that we can access the screws and bolts that hold this thing down. So let's see here. Probably go out to the second spot, I suppose. Like so. Yeah, that way we can get under everything, it looks like. Okay, I see. There's one. All right. First order of business is we're supposed to get under this plastic. There's a bolt, and then we unscrew these two screws. And the instructions say to be careful not to drop the bolt because it'll be, hard to recover because there's a hole here. But this isn't magnetized, so I'm not sure how I'm going to accomplish that. But I guess we'll give it a shot here. So I see the bolt. Let's see, lefty loosey. There we go. Oh, shit, there it is. All right, I can get that with a screwdriver. That's magnetized. Where did I put it? Oh, it's in my frickin' pocket. Operations success. All right, now we have to go do this on the other side. Oh, yeah, this one's a little bit harder to access, isn't it? Boy, I tell you, if I don't like this mod, I'm probably gonna have to leave it in there anyways, because this is a pain in the ass. Oh, come on. How many threads does this thing have? There we go. All right, now to not lose this screw. Ah, fuck. Where is it? Oh, I see it. Okay, good. Ha! Wow, that was a pain in the ass. Interesting. So this thing, these lights, huh. So this was sitting like this. All right, next step. Okay, so the next step is actually to put the smokestack on, but here's the problem, or here's what I don't like about this. This seems to be a recurring theme here, but that's fine. I mean, what I don't like is all this play here. So this is, this is the LED strip that lights everything up, and there's just a little play here. And granted, because of this cutout right here, this can't go anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere. It could maybe sink, it's got a little bit of up, vertical play here. But if you line up the screw holes, it's supposed to be about here. If you let go of it, it goes there. Now, probably not a big deal, but I would rather this just be locked down in place. And normally I would just put like another screw, or I'd put the same screws through here. But the problem with that is well, here, let me grab it. The problem with that is the smokestack rests flush against this plastic, and it mounts via 3M tape. So I think what I'm going to attempt to do, and hopefully people don't condemn me too much, but I'm going to take some really tiny cubes, 2 of them, of this mounting 3M tape, and try to get it underneath just to hold this in place so it doesn't move around at all. And to do this, I'm actually going to have to pre-peel the backing off. So let's try this. I'm going to pre-peel the backing and then use like a needle nose pliers. Sure, it'll stay to the top. Well, that's not a bad thing. I guess I could do it that way. Stick it to the top like that. Now let's see. It's definitely better. Yeah, if I can get one more over on this side. Yeah, that's already way better. Okay, let me got another piece here. There. Okay, now comes the fun part where we put the smokestack on, and it should go something like this. Actually, about like that. I'm just looking through it to line up the LEDs. So pretty straightforward. There's just some 3M tape on the back here. But the problem with this is you can see right here, well, again, it's not probably a problem. I'm just a little extra paranoid. But we've got 2 contact points right here. Just two spots with 3M tape on there. Now, granted, they're a good size, but I'm just going to add a couple more pieces, just like maybe one here and one here. I just don't want this thing ever having an excuse to come loose. So I've got a couple pieces I just pre-cut here. So I'm just going to go and put them on one right here. Like that. And the other one, let's see here, right about a little bit in, like that. And then this should go down right about there. That'll look pretty slick. Okay, let's pull the backing off here. All right. So this orients towards the back here. Actually hugs against this post. Try to center that up there and press. Groovy. All right, that's not going anywhere. And then we've got the smokestack. Smokestack goes on top, something like so. And this, I'm gonna have to change as well. This also has two pieces of 3M or double-sided tape. But if you look at this, and I don't know if you guys can see this, there's two pieces here, but neither one of them really covers the edges. And so if I come back here, this sits on top of here, and it only makes contact around these edges because this is hollow. So the location for these two pieces is kind of crummy. So I'm going to actually remove these and add a border of 3M back tape, just kind of cover this whole thing so that this doesn't go anywhere, because this will add a nice little touch. So I'm just going to do that off camera, and I'll come right back. Okay, I've got this thing loaded up here, so that should cover the entire edge of it. So then the question is, which angle? Probably just slightly off. Maybe kind of straight back like this. So it kind of trails off. All right, let's go right there. Yeah, I like that. That's perfect. All right. Sweet. All right, yeah, that's looking snazzy. So let's put the playfield back in, turn on the game. I might actually go into test mode and just see how the LEDs line up here. Should be spot on. I looked inside when I was putting this on, so those LEDs should line up with these letters quite nicely. But I just want to see and make sure that they do in fact line up, and also what it's going to look like. So with the game on. All right, everything's all set. I just fired the game up, so let's see how this thing looks. Oh, sweet. Oh, that actually looks better than I thought. LEDs look like they're all lined up. I am going to go into the test menu, but I just want to see in the attract first. Oh, that looks great. That's so cool. I guess it was worth the hassle of undoing those screws underneath the play field, or underneath the plastic. All right, let's go into the test menu. I want to just see what this looks like just solidly lit. There we go. Oh yeah, it looks like that looks perfect. The letters line up just nice, just perfectly. Yeah, that looks great. Yeah, all 5 of those LEDs look like they're spot on, so awesome. Groovy. Let's go back into the attract mode. I think we're done. Oops, gotta get out of here. Awesome, I call that a success. Let's move on to the next mod. All right, so next up is a fun one. Let's do the factory mod. And so first thing involved is we gotta lift the playfield like anything else. I think this might be, no, we still have a couple more mods that require lifting the playfield, but this one shouldn't hopefully be too terribly complicated. Let's see here. Let's bring it on. Yeah, that should be far enough. We just need it far enough so that we can access the bolts underneath here. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little voiceover here. For whatever reason, I lost audio for this section of the video. I'm not sure why, but I'm guessing most likely the battery died in my wireless microphone. So I don't have audio for this, so I'm just going to narrate through here. But all I'm doing is just removing the factory right now, and it's held down with just these 4 screws. They all have nuts underneath them. Pretty straightforward. Although the 2 on the opposite side that I'm doing right now were a little bit difficult, mostly because they're tough to access the nut that was underneath them. But I did speed this up a bit here because it's just kind of monotonous work. But one interesting thing about these 2 screws, and you'll see here, is that they actually also hold down this giant piece of acrylic, just those 2 screws. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, moving on to the other side here was a little more challenging, mostly because it was hard to access those nuts underneath the screws. But once I got those done, it was pretty straightforward. So yeah, just 4 screws, 4 nuts, and then this entire plastic comes off this factory. And you can kind of see it does resemble a little bit like the factory, the entrance in the movie, but man, it is just a rectangle. And I understand why people refer to it as a stick of butter. Especially when you compare it with the new factory, there's not even a comparison. But here I'm looking at the diverter, and it's pretty interesting how it works. You know, either the ball can go down this railing, or when the diverter is activated, it pushes it down to this magnet down here. So I think it's just kind of fun to study how this stuff works sometimes. And of course, here I'm putting the new factory on backwards, mind you. There you go. And those same 4 screws and nuts also hold this back on. And of course, I got to remember to put this acrylic back in place too. It's a little bit tricky getting everything all lined up because, you know, you are adding something new that's not exactly the same size, but this is a pretty simple part of the installation compared to some of the other stuff. And right now I'm just putting a couple of screws in. I'm just getting them started. That way I get the new factory in its place, and so they're kind of placeholders. All I need to do really is just get them started. One thing about the other side is that I have to remember to put the spotlight in its place too. That is also held down by one of the screws. And I think I actually forget about it and have to redo it. But I do speed this up again. You know, once again, and this is all monotonous work. So
I think I have this sped up like 20 times, you know, a ridiculous amount. But, you know, if I just let this play, you know, that's like 10 minutes or whatever of boring, repetitive work. So it's just it's just more beneficial to speed it up. So there, I forgot to put the spotlight in its place. Then I realize it. Now now I put the spotlight back down. And that's all there's to it. Factory's in place. Now back to the regular audio.
Okay, so I apologize. I forgot to hit record on my camera. I installed these two pieces here, and the entire time I didn't realize my cameras were not rolling. So I apologize. And normally, if I discovered that, I would go back and redo whatever I had done to demonstrate it. But these two pieces are not coming off. I mean, I'm just afraid that I'm going to damage something if I remove them because they snap on really snug. Basically, I took them, and how it works is there's no screws or glue or anything like that. It just, you press, there's a little, well here, let me grab the other piece because I haven't done that yet. There's these little grooves in here, and you start with one side, and then you press on the other, and the rails just snap right in, and these are really snug. They really wrap tightly around here, so they're not going anywhere. I just don't want to risk damaging something. So that's all I've done so far. I still have one piece to go, but I just discovered something, and it wasn't until I read a thread on Pinside, because it's not in the instructions. I haven't been able to find in the instructions anywhere, but what I was getting at is for this piece here, you're supposed to start down a little bit further per the instructions and then slide it right up into the factory. But the problem is this plastic gets in the way, and nowhere in the instructions did it say anything regarding this lower plastic here. And then I found a thread on Pinside where someone had installed this, and they specifically said that in order to install this piece, you have to remove the lower plastic. You can leave this top piece up here, which is good, but you have to remove the lower one. And I'm guessing that the only reason for this lower plastic or any of this plastic is to protect or prevent a ball getting stuck and you know, like an air ball or something like that. However, since this mod uses tubing that connects all these pieces, I think that would fill up that space. So I'm not too worried about losing this lower plastic. But we need to do that in order to get this installed. So let me just grab my Phillips here. The good news is I don't need to go back and remove this whole thing. It looks like I can just get a needle nose, and I should be able to just unscrew these right here. There. And I want to keep this, you know, as much of this acrylic as I can because I may mount something here. You know, I've got a bunch of those little mods left, and you know, it's better to have some than none if this is, you know, there for, you know, to protect against air balls and things like that. So, all right, now we can actually add this. So I think it says start from the right. Let me just see here. Starting from the right side. Okay, follow the same process. So there, and just press. Maybe I need to start. I wonder how far to. Is this meant to? I think I start right here. All right, it's locked in, and then we're supposed to slide that. I think that's, oh, no. There we go. Nice. That looks awesome. Looks sweet already. And now, last stuff is that tubing. So you may need to trim the plastic accordingly. All right. So let's see. The small one is for here. And here's the large one. So we go like so. Definitely gonna have to trim this, it looks like. But well, is it supposed to wrap? Is it supposed to? Oh, I see. There's a on. I don't know if you guys can see this. You see this little groove? That's where the tubing goes. Duh. I was like trying to figure this out. How do I get this to fit? Okay, so I will need to trim it by a little bit here. And then, yeah. Okay, so how much should I trim off here? About not much. So I need to trim, boy. Actually, I should almost hold it in here. Okay, so we're just gonna go just a tiny little bit. Let me grab, do I need a little side cutter? Okay, so let me put this in here again. So let's see, just a little tiny bit. I'm just going to start smaller because I can't add. All right, let's see if this is, see if we've got enough here. Ah, it's so close. I almost actually have it. Yeah, it needs more. Let's go a little bit more. I'm just going to trim a little bit more off here. Come right back. Okay, I took just a little bit more off here. Let's see if that's enough now. Oh, okay, that did it. Yeah, that's not gonna, that won't pop out. That's good. Good. Didn't want to take too much off. All right, and we've got one more piece here, which goes like that. So this one, we can actually move this guy up. There. And I'm actually there. I'm gonna move this piece a little bit closer so this is a little more snug. Oops, not that much though. There we go. Awesome. Ha. Oh man, that is so cool. Now I'm going to put the playfield back in position, and then I think I'm just going to grab a ball and drop it down here just to make sure it freely can get all the way through here. All right, let me do that. Actually, one thing before I do that I just did off camera, but I took one of the lower pieces. I don't know if you guys can see this, and I was able to still finesse it in here. So I added that here just for a little extra stability, and that way I'm only removing one piece of acrylic here, and I still have the second piece. So an added layer of protection. I don't like removing stuff from the playfield that was originally there unless I'm replacing it with something. So I was happy to be able to get that in there. So that's all I did. I added one of the two pieces of acrylic back in there, and then I just doubled up on the spacers. So yeah, that's all I did. So anyways, let's lower the playfield and give this a test.
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
All right, so you guys are now witnessing my OCD taking over. I had second thoughts on these two pieces of acrylic that were removed. I want to use them, and so I've decided I'm just going to cut out a little tiny notch that I marked here. By the way, there's both of them here. Just so that I can fit those back in and still use them. You know, they're just pieces of acrylic, so if I really do hack them up and down the road I need originals, I'm sure I can get a hold of Jersey Jack and get replacement ones. But I don't want to just abandon them and pull them completely from the playfield. I changed my mind. So yeah, I'm just gonna see if I can just cut a notch in there using my Dremel. And you know, I'm always looking for excuses to use this thing. This is probably my favorite tool. Power tool that I have. I freaking love using Dremels. I don't know why, but I just find them a lot of fun, and I like how many little gadgets there are for them, little tips and pieces and whatever. So I'm just going to use this clamp to keep these from sliding around. And then let's see here, what speed am I on here? 20. All right. Give this a shot here. I got my safety glasses on. Even with I should have actually worn goggles. I got a little tiny piece near my eye. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, I figured that'd melt a little bit, but not bad. That should be enough. I was kind of generous. Maybe let me get a little file just to smooth that out here. Okay, just file this guy down a little bit here. Okay. Let's see if these fit and install them back on there, and then we can test this whole thing out. Okay, so let's test fit these guys here. Let me just grab one of them. Okay. Yeah, I think they'll do nicely. All right. Nice. Excellent. Woohoo. Dremel for the win. Okay, let's set this, now finally put the playfield back in and just get a ball through here and see what happens. All right, let's give this a shot here. All right, I just grabbed, actually let me grab another one out of the, grab a couple out of the trough here. Okay, two balls here. Here goes first one. I'm just gonna start way up at the top here. Just see what happens. That is awesome. All right, let's do another one. Oh my God, that's gotta be one of my favorite mods so far. Maybe, at least in the top 5. All right, one more. This is just too cool. It looks so awesome. Oh, it's gonna be sweet to play like that. It looks so much better than that other quote unquote factory, more like, you know, a stick of butter. Oh, that is so awesome. Sweet. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so it's actually the next day. I'm feeling refreshed. And so on the agenda next are the game blades. Installing these guys. These are the pieces of artwork that actually go on the inside here. These are the blades, so they install on both sides here. And I admit I've been actually putting this off for a while now because I know that it's going to be one of the more challenging mods to do. And so I've been a little bit reluctant, but I've had time to roll it around and I think I've come up with a very solid game plan. So time to get to it. All right, so my plan with this is to basically treat it like arcade side art because it's basically an adhesive vinyl. And so that's kind of my game plan, is to apply it the same way. But to get everything set up and started, first we need to separate these two sheets because they're both on one sheet. So I need to separate both of these blades. So I've got my straight edge here and an X-Acto knife somewhere. Where did I put that? I'm already losing things. Oh, there it is. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is separate these, and here's where the art breaks off. So I'm just going to use a cutting board and this straight edge. It doesn't have to be perfect. I probably could use a scissor too, but this is just as easy. Let's go right in the center here. Do one more. There. Okay. All right, and then let's see here. Okay, oops. I probably need to change this blade. I should have done that. Oh well. Okay. And we're up to here, okay. All right. Let's move this one off to the side here. And now what I want to do is I think I'm going to start with this skinnier side, or this narrower side first, and then hinge it on the blade inside the pin, so that I can line this side up, and then I'll do this side afterwards. It'll make a little more sense once I set up the cameras and we actually do it. But what I want to do here is take off this extra bleed, so that right where you peel this is the edge. And that way, when I hinge this on there, it's lined up flush, so that basically I can tape this down, peel the backing off, get this side lined up perfectly, and then undo, or you take the backing off the second half and do that side. But I don't need to make this flush the whole way through. That's why I have this smaller cutting board. Only just a piece of it, just enough to get it lined up perfectly. So that's my game plan. So I'm going to need my straight edge. This will be a little more precise work. And I want to make sure that this is absolutely lined up. Let's see here. Let's go over here. Need to be just about perfect, so not a lot of room for error. All right, let's see how that is. Oh yeah, that's pretty darn close. That's okay. I'm almost wondering if when I do the other one, the other piece, if I should try using a scissor, if that'd be any easier. I mean, this looks pretty good, so I might just stick with this method. Yeah, because here's the line right here, and this is lined up nicely. Okay, let me just finish this here, and then grab a scissor. Actually, I don't even need a scissor. I can just do this. All right, there we go. Okay, so this is the top of the art now. And so when I peel this back, we can just line this top edge right up underneath the glass to where we need it. So not bad. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so now I want to do the same with the other side. All right, so now comes the real fun part where we get to install this stuff. Okay, so my plan is to start with this side first, and there's a little bit of prep work that's involved. So first things is we need to move the play field out so I can get back at this bolt back here, because that actually has to come off. That's one of the head bolts, and that's why I'm only going to do this one at this time, because I'm nervous enough to just to pull one of them. I don't want to do both at the same time. So I'm going to undo this one here. And in order to access that, we'll pull the playfield out just slightly. And then once that's out, then we're going to need to make sure this is clean of dust or, any sort of particles. And I'll probably just use a little bit of isopropyl or, rubbing alcohol on there. So, okay, so let's pull this up just a little bit, enough to access that bolt back there. Let's see here. That should, oops. Yeah, that should be enough. Okay. Then let's undo this guy. Boy, is that on there tight. Oh, man. Am I doing something wrong here? Oh, no, I felt it. Let's see here. Oh, boy, I can't get this thing to budge. Maybe I need like a big Allen wrench. Because even though I've got the right bit here, oh, there we go. I spoke too soon. Oh, there we go. Okay, put that in a safe spot. I'm gonna pull the playfield out a little bit further so I can get back here a little bit. There. Okay. And I've got some 50% isopropyl alcohol here. I have a terrible time saying that. Let's just go through here. Just clean all this. Okay. I'll do the other side once I take that bolt out. So now we can put the playfield, actually we can tip it up to access this whole front here. Oops, stick it in there. Okay, and let's proceed to do the same thing over here. Oh, I still got a little bit here. Good. All right, so here's my game plan. Let me grab this. So my plan is to lay this in, if I can here. Lay this in, line this art up, knowing that, oops, there, might have to do it like this. Knowing that this edge is flush, and tape this down so that it's even. And by doing that and really locking this sucker down, I know that when I peel this backing off and go this way, that it will be flush all the way up. And that's kind of how I do, well, that's exactly how I typically do the side art on arcade games. So, and I think this goes, let me just make sure that the back here, where that's supposed to end. Let's see. Okay, so this actually does go all the way back up to there. Now I know some of this you probably won't see. All right, I'm just gonna try to make a note of the relation of where this edge is in relation to the button. So that'll be my reference once I push this all the way back up here. Okay, so it's just in front of that button. All right, I'm gonna use some of this blue tape here. This stuff works great. Good old painter's tape. So let's get this up here. This won't be able to be completely flush just because of that button, but I should be able to get it close. Let's do another one for that. I should have went longer. Tape is cheap, so I get abundant with it. Okay, and then I need this. So we're gonna tape all this up so that it's rock solid, then bring the playfield down and peel the backing on the back half, adhere that to the cabinet, and then remove this tape and adhere this. So it's kind of the hinge method, and it seems to work. It always works really well with arcade games, so we're testing the boundaries here with, with Pinball. Okay, so now let's move this playfield down. Close this up here. This might be a little trickier than I thought. Well, let me put this back up here for a second. Might need a piece of tape here just to keep it out of the way of this for the playfield when I lower it here. Yeah. Let's just do something like this. All right. So, to quote Bob Ross, this is the bravery test here. So, I'm going to pull the backing off. As much as I can. And cut this. This is pretty much of applying this art, or any art, I find the very first piece that you apply to be the most nerve-wracking, because that's going to offset or set the course of
all of the other art. So, okay. So we just want to make sure that this is just on that line. Can't see a line, can you, Russ? My girlfriend would be proud of me for using my hand instead of a squeegee here. She swears by that. Okay, here's that block of wood. I guess for future reference, if I was going to do this again, I would probably, I don't know if I would do it any different, but I'm just going to let it be. All right, now we need to lift this back up here. And in a minute, I'll show you guys once I switch to the other side. I have protectors that are supposed to help protect that art. Because this game fits, this playfield fits so snugly in here. Now, can I get to, wow, all right, so I really need to, that's gonna be a challenge getting to that spot. Let's see here. What if I go, no? Wonder if I can ride, huh. This part right here is just this one section right here seems pretty darn tricky to get to. Let's see. Where am I situated? I guess I have to kind of go very incrementally. Or wonder if I can go, there. Hopefully I can set this up. Hopefully that will, that's cutting it close, but let's see here. That is almost at 90 degrees. Whew. All right, let me see here. I just need to be able to access just a section here just for a minute. So let's undo the rest. So now that we've got the back adhered, we can take all this tape off and we shouldn't have to worry about where it lines up as much. Okay. Now, just need to be able to get to the backing. Just do one section here. Go up just. I watched a couple videos of people doing this, and everyone has their own method. I watched one guy use the wet method, where you could spray the bottom with soapy water, like Rapid Tack, and something to basically keep it wet so you can reposition it, and you have a little more room for error. But this is actually pretty forgiving stuff. I used to use that method with side art, but I've kind of come full circle, and now I just do it like this. I feel like it's got better adhesion. Oh, there's a bubble or two. I am going to grab a squeegee. Just make sure. Really, this is pretty nice, so yeah, feels pretty solid. All right, so before I bring this down, let me change the cameras here so you can see this whole thing. Okay, let me grab one of my protectors for that right side here, and hopefully this will work how it's supposed to. So this is one giant piece of plastic with magnets on it, and this is meant to protect the artwork because of the sharp edges and how snug this playfield lays in this cabinet. It can rub against this art and cause scratches. In fact, some of the people that have collector's edition versions of this game have complained that because out of the factory it has artwork. That's one difference between mine and the collector's edition. So they have these protectors that are meant to protect the artwork. So I'm just going to try to thread this in here. Something like that. And then it's got magnets on the outside. So now, in theory, I should be able to comfortably move the playfield back. Although, well, wait, if I start over here again, oh no, I need to take that bolt out. So yes, we do need to pull this down. So in theory, this should protect that side. And I can just pull this out to here. Okay, now we can switch to the other side. Actually, before I do that, I am going to trim the art. Well, I'll do that off camera. There's just, the art is a little bit bunched up on the piece of wood in the back there. I just need to take an X-Acto and just cut around it. I'll do that off camera, and then when we come back, we'll work on the other side. Real quick, one thing before we switch to the other side that I forgot to mention. Here, let me zoom in here. I did remember to put the bolt back in. So I did get that head bolt put back in there. All I did was I just cut the empty hole there, where the vinyl was overlapping it. I just took an X-Acto, cut around that, and then just screwed the bolt back in. So I forgot to record it. I'll try to remember to do the other side, but really it's not that big of a deal. But yes, I did remember to do that. Almost forgot. Okay, first order of business, we gotta get this bolt out of here. Man. Oh, I really do think, I wish I had an Allen wrench, and I might have one that's that size. Oh, man. I'm going to look for hang on a second, I'm going to look for an Allen wrench. All right, I couldn't find an Allen wrench, but I found something close. So I'm going to use this, see if this son of a bitch can. Oh, yes. Okay, I need to move the machine back down. All right, let's do the other side now. And this side we're gonna have to be extra careful on because there's actually less space between the inner side and the play field. It's really snug. And so I may have to approach this slightly different, but the concept is the same. So let's see here, thread this through here. Try to push this all the way up so I can tape it down in the front. Okay, and this brown right here should come right up to this bar. So, oops, actually let's go about here. So now what I want to do is move the playfield out, and even though this is taped pretty flush, there still isn't much of a gap here. So what I'm going to do is grab the other playfield protector here, and we're going to use this obviously to protect the art, but also just to keep the art flush. Here, something like this. So that now we can bring the playfield out. So let's give that a shot here. We're going to put it in the third position, so the furthest that you can pull it forward, basically. Okay, that worked well. All right, now we can pull the protector off here. Okay. And we're going to start with the back, get this up there. So, all right, so we need to take the backing off. As much as we can. Looks like that's the max. Normally I work in smaller chunks, but we don't have much space, so it's easier for me to do this now. Let's see here. See if I can get just a little bit further in here. There's actually, can sometimes be tricky to cut this backing because if you don't have it perfectly, and I do this all the time, actually, I'm kind of doing it there. If you tear it and you get like little jaggedy edges and you get little tiny like microscopic slivers of the backing, and if that gets underneath this adhesive, it shows up in the artwork unless you have some magical artwork. But usually those imperfections that will show up. So you really have to be careful with how you cut that. So now let's just line this up. Let's get our protector in here.
Lift this guy up here. Okay, now we can lift this up here. Actually, let me see. Our art is about... Okay, we're gonna actually have to push this up a little bit. Let me pull this out. Well, no, let's move this up first. All right, I think that's about the max. That's almost 90 degrees. Okay, so now let's see here. How are we doing? Okay, and the art that's applied ends right here, so we're in a good spot because I can still access that. Okay, let's take this off here. I guess this is probably a good time for me to make a confession that this is not the first time that I am putting this art on. Well, this particular piece, yes, but it's my second attempt because I completely flubbed, screwed up, biffed, whatever you want to call it, the first piece. In fact, let me just cut to that right now. I'll show you. Okay, now let's see where we line up. Jeez, that's the real trick right there. That spot. Uh-oh. Ah, fuck. That's why I've been extra careful this time around because of how that artwork got scrunched up and messed up. I did probably spend about 15 to 20 minutes or so with a heat gun, and I think honestly if I had spent like a couple hours I might have got it close, but it still would have bothered me. And this, honestly, this is for the whole set of this art was like 65, 70 bucks. So to get a replacement cost me $30 shipped. So it just wasn't worth the headache and frustration. Now, if it had been like a full vinyl wrap on an arcade game, yes, I probably would have really stuck it out because it probably would have been a $200 set of art anyhow. So yes, I learned from my mistake so far. I say so far because this isn't done yet. Okay, no bubbles. Now I'm going to put my protector on again and then do the same on the back. Where is that? This is something I'm going to need to get into the habit of doing because I've heard, and I may have mentioned this, I don't know, but people that have the collector's edition, the one version above this, cost-wise, already has art on the inner sides, and I've heard that people have complained that they've scuffed up, especially this side, the artwork from the cabinet just because it fits so snug. So I gotta get in the habit of using these things. Anyhow, let's see here. Okay, let me switch angles here. Okay, let's take this off here. And we still need to put that bolt in too. And I need to trim the back there. So let's first start here. Just make sure there's no major bubbles. And yeah, I'm just gonna need to trim right around here. Okay, that feels pretty darn good. Let me go grab my X-Acto here. Just get back in here. You guys may not see this. Now we just need to, let's see. Let me see, can you guys even see where the bolt hole is here? Okay, good, you guys can see that. So, I'm gonna trim out right here. All right. On out there. All right. Now, protector has to go back on, and then we can put the playfield back in. Go. Oh, there goes the ball. Okay, we can take these guys off. About here. Ta-da! Yeah, nice. That is pretty darn slick, and that should clear the glass just fine. Let's get the other side here. Voila! All right. Even though I screwed up that left side the first time around, I'm really happy with the results now. Totally worth getting a new piece. And again, yeah, it's super inexpensive, like 65, 70 bucks for the set. But what a difference that makes. Really adds a lot of color and really expands the playfield. I'm really digging it. So I'll call that a success. Let's move on. Well, actually, I should address a couple things that you probably, well, maybe you noticed. I don't know if you did or not. But that is, well, first off, the factory mod here, missing the pipe here and the tubing, and I removed those. I will address that later on in this video, but I ran into a little bit of a challenge with that. And then as far as the factory or the Wonka tower goes, I had the smokestack mod on here for a while, but after like 2 or 3 days of looking at it, studying it, I decided I just didn't like it. And that's just the nature of some of these mods. You know, not all of them play well once they're on the playfield or you know, have the look that you thought it might have. So after a while, I just decided that I like this one better. I think the colors pop more on it. So I'm just going to stick with the original and not use that mod after all. In the process of putting this back on, I did discover a much easier way than the instructions for removing and installing the smokestack. And that is actually, instead of wedging a wrench in here, you can go under the playfield, there's a hole, and you can reach a Phillips screwdriver up and just undo those 2 screws. It took me once I discovered that, it took me like 5 minutes versus all that pain and headache of trying to wedge under this plastic and risk damaging it. So just a tip for anyone that does do that smokestack mod, that it's much easier to just go under the playfield with a Phillips screwdriver. Anyhow. All right, so what happened with the factory pipe and the tubing? Well, you'll notice that it's back, and it wasn't in the previous shot. Well, it's been a couple days, I have to admit. A couple days, I was waiting to get this as a replacement. This is actually another pipe. So Mezzomod sent me a new one. And the reason for that is the original broke on me. And mostly my fault, I'm pretty darn sure. But what happened was I played a long game on here. I got a lot of multi-balls, a lot of balls were traveling down this railing, down this ramp. And afterwards, I came back and I noticed that this pipe had come just slightly out of the factory, and I didn't have it very far in there to begin with. But it had come just far enough that there was a little bit of a gap and it was a little bit off center. So I was just going to thread it right back in there. And I must have just put too much pressure on the left side, or something was off, and crunch. The whole left side just snapped right off where the tension is. And so I needed a replacement. And here's actually the original. So if you look here, I glued this back together, but you can see where it cracked. It cracked right along this line here. And I glued it back together, not because I was going to try to put it back on there, because there's no way that this would go back on here. It just isn't strong enough anymore. I lost too much of that integrity. But I glued it back together because I do have a possible plan for this. I might see if I can make a mold of it, just because in case I break another one, right? But Mezzlemods was good enough. They gave me a deal on this replacement. I actually got another tube as well, because since I put this one in a little bit further into the factory in a better spot, I think, I had to get a new piece of tubing because the old one was a little bit too short. So everything's in a much better place. I actually added a drop or two of super glue just to keep this more snug in there. So I think everything is in a much better place. I've played a couple games. It's good. So that's what happened with that. That's why when I installed this blade here, I didn't have that on there, and that's because it had broke. So another quick little update is in regards to the Wonka Tower. Now, as I said before, I put the original back in there because I just like this one a bit more. But I did get this is from Mod Couple, and this is a little topper that goes on top, adds a nice little Wonka touch to it, and kind of completes the top. And I actually really like this a lot. A lot of it just for the simple fact that it hides the screws on top. So it looks a little more complete. I like that little bit of touch, so I added that. This is a real inexpensive mod that they made. I think it was like 10 or 15 bucks or something like that. But yeah, so that's just a quick little update with the Wonka Tower. And lastly, probably the biggest update is I got my Wonkavator back. And this has a brand new motor in it. It's actually a 6-volt motor. So what ended up happening, I found out, is that I had an earlier version of this mod, and in their early versions they used a 12-volt motor, which was way too loud. In fact, that's why they switched it out to the 6-volt motor, just to keep it quieter. So I sent this off to Lurmods. They threw a new, Rob threw a new motor in there. He also sent me the new power supply. I got it back really quickly, so big shout out to Lurmods. Really good customer service. Sent it back to me. I reinstalled it, and it is a million times better. It's so much quieter. You can hardly hear it, and you can't. It's completely silent during gameplay. So way better. And I'm very happy because this is such a cool mod. In fact, let me just show you for comparison purposes the difference between the two, because you remember how loud the original was. But let me just show you for comparison purposes. Okay, so the game's on. I'm standing by the flippers where the player would, and glass is on. I'm in the test menu, so this is what you would be hearing if it was just the Wonkavator running. So yeah, quite the night and day difference, wouldn't you say? I mean, this is substantially quieter than the old motor, and thank goodness, because this is by far one of my favorite mods, probably within, I would say, like the top 4 of the mods that I've installed thus far, at least. But yeah, it's so badass. I'm so glad that Lurmods has such good customer service, and they were able to swap the motor out, because yeah, it's so cool.
The suspense is terrible.
He's gonna go this time.
I hope it'll last.